Thank you for the segue, Representative. This question has to do with education. America's children are falling further and further behind students in other nations when it comes to academic aptitude. Families, especially low-income families, have few or no options to move their children from underperforming and failing schools. And while the federal stimulus supported teachers' jobs, that funding is finite. What role, if any, should the federal government play in giving American students access to an education that will prepare them to compete in the global economy?
Thank you very much. I believe that the single biggest investment that we can make are in our students. They're human capital. I don't believe we should abolish the education department like we hear some people talk about sometimes, because we need to remember that 35% of the Department of Education's budget goes towards the managing of funding for low-income students, Pell Grants, of which I was one. And without a Pell Grant, I wouldn't have gotten through school. I do believe that No Child Left Behind has not worked. I do believe that we should devolve a lot of the decision-making about education back to the states. I think Massachusetts educators know what's best for Massachusetts students. And I don't think we should be sending $1 down in Washington, D.C. to have a bureaucrat tell us how to educate and teach our students here in Massachusetts and give us 70 cents back. So I believe we should devolve more of the decision-making process and spending process back to the states. And again, I would not abolish the Department of Education, because they play a very large role in funding low-income students like myself when I was in school, and I couldn't simply have gotten through school without it.
Congresswoman Tsongas?
Well, I've spent some time in the classroom, and I also was fortunate to work at Middlesex Community College, rising to becoming a dean over the course of 9 years. So I understand how critically important our teachers are and how critically important our educational institutions, especially our public educational institutions. As I have served in this office, I've made a point of visiting a lot of companies. And one company I visited, and actually a company in the new part of the district, 800 out of the 1,200 employees were engineers. Also, as we did our Make It in America town hall, we learned that at the other end of the spectrum, there's a need for very particular skills that can support advanced manufacturing. That those skills can actually be taught at the vocational technical schools. So what that tells me is we have to focus on education across the spectrum. And we in Massachusetts are fortunate. We are the topmost in the country. The fact that we have as low an unemployment rate as we do is probably reflective of the fact that we value minds, we support innovation, and we know that we need educated young people, either to have the skill set at the advanced manufacturing level all the way up.
Mr. Golnik?
Thank you very much. Well, I have to disagree with the representative. I don't think our unemployment rate is that low. In fact, we have many cities in this district that are approaching 9%. Lawrence is 14.5% unemployment. Children today coming out of school, or they aren't children, but students are 1 and 2 are unemployed. I mean, we have not done the job creating jobs for people who have been working for years, but also those entering the workforce. And we need to do this again by empowering the private sector. We need to give clarity to the private sector so that they'll begin creating jobs and start spending some of that $2 trillion on their balance sheets. So our single biggest disservice that we're doing right now is not creating the jobs that these students need coming out of college.